Hey, I'm Tim. Thanks for watching this video. If you saw my previous video where I did an unboxing of the Grandstream GWN7710R outdoor PoE network switch. Well, in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through the installation process that I did to install it outside in the back garden on my house wall. And then what we'll do after that is I'll take you through the web interface as it's a managed switch, and so we'll go through the settings and what's available in the management interface. So we'll get right to it now. So what I'm doing first is fixing the bracket to the back of the switch using the 4 provided screws. Now you have to fix it to the bracket first before you fix it to the wall. Then, as you can see, I've already fixed it to the wall. I made it level with the spirit level, and as you can see it's fixed to the wall, but I've only used 2 screws, one either side, as it didn't require 4 screws, and it's really solid, fixed to the back of the wall, and it's not going to move anywhere. So there we have the switch fixed to the back of the wall. What I'm doing then is splitting the rubber cover to feed the cable through. Now it's already perforated against each hole. So then I'm threading it through into the switch. We're connecting it into port number 5, which is the PoE in port. So I'm making sure that the grommet is firmly in place, and as you can see I put those also black rubber grommets in there in the holes just to stop any moisture going through, which I mentioned in the previous video as well. And there we have the lights. So it's powered on. We've got the power light at the left hand side, and we've also got the PoE in, which is port number 5. So I'm fixing the cover back on using the screw provided, and then it's all sealed, and as far as the cable's concerned I will be tacking that to the wall and tidying that up later on, which I did after I've recorded the video. So there we go. So here we are at the login web page for the Grandstream GWN7710R Layer 2 Lite Managed Network Switch. So this is what you'll be presented with when you go to the IP address of the switch. Now I've obtained the IP address from my router, so the list of clients in my router or router, whichever you like to refer to it as. And once you get to the login page, now the username by default is admin, and the password, as I've mentioned in the previous video, that is shown on the inside of the device, so inside the front cover, and also there's a label provided in the plastic bag inside the box. I've already logged into this once before, so I've changed the password. So what I'll do is paste in the username and password. And then once you've logged in for the first time, you'll be presented with the system overview page. Now, this provides you with basic information, as you'll see. So we've got the device name, the location, which you can enter, and the system contact. So if you want to enter those information, you can click on the box here with the pen, and then it will give you the pop-up box where you can change the device name, give it a system location and a contact. So it also provides the MAC address and the management IP address. So this is the address of the actual device, and the gateway, so that's the actual router address. You will see we've got the MAC address and the system OID as well. We've also got the part number, serial number, system version, and so on. Now for the system version, I've already updated this to the latest version at the time of recording this video, which is version 1.0.3.21. So that is the latest system version. Then moving down, you'll see we've got the system uptime, boot version as well, and we've also got the power supply statistics. Now, as I've mentioned in the previous video, and also just to confirm, I'm powering it via PoE++, so that provides the power supply up to 60 watts. So you will see we've got the input supply voltage of 52.36 volts. We've got the input current 0.09 amps, and we've got the device temperature, so that's the internal temperature of the device, and we've also got the total PSE power and PSE remaining power. Now what this refers to is the actual power that is available for PoE out ports. So this doesn't match the PoE input power. Now the PoE input power, as I've said, is 60 watts. Now the device itself is using so much wattage, hence why it's showing 50 watts of available PoE budget left to use. So you'll see we've got the PSE remaining power. So this power is the amount remaining. Now if you're, for example, using say port 1 with a PoE of 30 watts, then you would get the PSE remaining power of 20 watts. So this is useful information here in this power supply section, as it gives you how much you have available and left to use to power your power over Ethernet devices in the switch. So we'll move down to port info, and here you'll see we've got a graph of the ports available in the switch. So we've got port 1 through to port 4 are the PoE out ports, and they are all rated at either PoE 802.3 AF or AT. So that is PoE and PoE plus. So each of those ports can be used for PoE or PoE plus, depending of course on the total PoE budget, which I've just mentioned. So you'll see we've got port 5, and this is the PoE in. So this is being powered by PoE++, as it's shown in the pop-up box there, and the input is at 1 gigabit. And actually, just to confirm, all these 5 ports here are all 1 gigabit ports, and also there's an SFP port, so that is rated at 2.5 gigabits. So it can either be 1 gigabit or 2.5 gigabit, depending on which SFP module you're using. So of course you'll have to use a compatible SFP module. So you'll see if you click on each of the ports. So at the moment we've got port 1 selected by default, and here you'll see we've got the basic info and the PoE power supply. So this tells you what the port is actually doing at the time and what device is actually plugged into it. So you'll see we've got the maximum power supply available, 30 watts, because nothing's plugged into any of these 4 ports at the moment. We can move down to lag, which is link aggregation groups. So there's 3 link aggregation groups you can use. Obviously there's only 6 ports, hence why there's 3 groups. And then go down to MAC address search. Here you can search for MAC addresses. Then we've got spanning tree. We can also create VLANs in here. So select the VLAN option here and then select port VLAN. So here you will see we've already got 6 VLAN IDs created. So this is by default. So for example, if you want to use VLAN 2, you would click the pen and the square icon. And then what you do is select the ports that you want to put in VLAN 2, for example. So we'll select all 4 and it puts a blue border around each port number. So that would say then you can put port 1 and 2, click OK. And then it will show you here in the list that VLAN 2 is connected to port 1 and 2. So you can do, say, for example, VLAN 3. So select port 3 and 4, click OK, and then it will put those 2 ports into VLAN 3. Now, as it's a layer 2 Lite switch, this is why the VLAN options here are restricted slightly. So that's the reason why they've already created the 6 VLAN IDs. So you cannot, for example, create your own VLAN ID by going into, say, VLAN ID 4. You cannot change the VLAN ID box here. So just bear that in mind, as it's a layer 2 Lite switch. This is why you cannot just give your VLAN IDs numbers of your own choice, for example. So there's also 802.1q VLAN option there, and 802.1q PVID settings, voice VLAN settings as well, and then there's also IGMP snooping, QoS, so there's various QoS settings here. Then in security we've got storm control, DHCP snooping as well options in there, and then we've got PoE. So we can click on PoE power supply info, and here it tells you the total PoE. So this is the global options. So we've got PoE port number is 4. So we've got 4 ports of PoE available. The total power input is 60 watts, As I've said, I'm powering it via PoE++, hence why it's showing 60 watts of power, and the power source environment power. So that's the power available again for the port. So for the PoE out is up to 50 watts, and it's saying the power consumption is 0 watts because we're not using any PoE out power. The remaining power again is 50 watts, and the PSE supply voltage is 49.8 volts. So moving down, we can then select power supply settings. So you can go into each individual of the 4 ports and set the power supply standard, power supply mode, and power supply priority. So for example, you can give, say, one device higher power supply priority over another. So for example, if it decides to use more power for some reason, then you can set that to a higher power supply priority, so that any devices lower than that would probably get powered off or lose intermittent power connections. So I would just recommend leaving that as it is. So we'll cancel that, and then in PoE Watchdog, you will see that we'd get information about the IP address, packet intervals, enable delay time, retries, disable time as well. So each of that information will be populated depending on what device is plugged into which of the 4 PoE out ports. So then we can go down to monitoring, and here you've got port statistics, port mirror, cable test, loopback detection, and then we've got the maintenance option. So just to confirm, in the maintenance option, what I've already done is gone into the upgrade option here, and what I did was upload the firmware file to update. So I've already updated the firmware to the latest version, as I said when I first took you into the overview page here. So all I did to update the firmware was download the firmware file from the Grandstream website, then select the folder option here, and then from the pop-up window that appears, it will ask you to browse to the file. So what I did was selected the firmware file, click save, and then it proceeded to update the firmware on the device to the latest version at the time of recording this video, which is the 16th of April 2025. So then if we go back to quickly the overview section, system info, you'll see here we've got the system version, and that is the latest firmware version. So going back to maintenance, we can then go into backup and restore. So you can create a backup of the configuration in the switch. You can export the backup. You can also import a configuration should you wish to restore a configuration, and you can also factory reset it using that option there. Then in maintenance, we've got ping. So you can ping any device on your network. So for example, we type in the IP address of the router and then click start. And then what it will do is give you the ping results here. So we've got the host name, which is the Grandstream GWN7710R router, which I'm using. And we've got the packet sent, packet received, packet loss is 0%, which is of course good. And then we've got the minimum maximum round trip time of 4 milliseconds, 9 milliseconds, and then the average round trip time of 6 milliseconds. So then you can also go into SNMP. So there's various options there to set should you wish to use SNMP. Then we've got link layer discovery protocol. So if you want to use that, you'll click on the pen and the square for each port number, set the designated options that you want. Then the last option is for LED indicators. So on the switch itself, I showed you earlier in the video that there's LEDs on the actual outside of the device, which shine through the casing of the device actually. And if you want to turn off these LEDs, you can do. So all you need to do is just click the blue slider, click save, and then again, make sure you always, after changing any setting in the switch, make sure you click save here at the top status bar. So we'll leave the LED indicators back on, and then again click save as I've just done there, and then we'll click save again in the top right corner, and it's saying save successfully. So that is the interface for the GWN7710R Layer 2 Lite Managed Outdoor PoE Network Switch. That'll do it, I think, for this video. And if you haven't seen my previous video where I did the unboxing, then I'll put the link in the description and also at the end of this video. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back again soon with more videos. So bye for now.